Hey Internet, I'm Chris, and this is a place on the internet where I talk about comics, movies, games, and things I'm generally passionate about. So earlier this year, Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League came out and was a huge flop, and if it wasn't for Concord, would probably be the biggest flop of the year when it comes to live services. Now, at the end of its current roadmap, they release Deathstroke, which is something people had been asking for a really long time. Something people would probably play the game for if you had released them at launch or early on instead of Lawless or Mrs. Freeze. But hey, here we are. And with that release, they released a FAQ, and in that FAQ, they shared that after the release of Deathstroke, they will no longer be supporting the game. They will create a offline mode where people who have purchased the game can enjoy the game, you know, have all of their cosmetics and still play the game without being lost medium, which is great news for fans of the game if there are any. But also, hey, if you paid for the game, you don't want to be in a situation where you paid over $100 if you got it at launch to say, hey, I just burned that money and it's not going anywhere. And to be fair, it is one of those things that it's IP driven. So certain characters like Captain Boomerang, Deadshot, King Shark are characters that you can't play in video games for the most part. So maybe there's some real big King Shark stands that are like, I bought this game to specifically play him because I've never gotten to play him in anything and I need this, which is fair. But I think it really shows sort of the boom and bust of the AAA game space now, where you can have something like Marvel Rivals, which just launched to over 10 million players and by all accounts is a huge success. And then you have something like Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, which in under a year is pulling support in terms of its content roadmap, and the developer Rocksteady is moving on to whatever the next thing is, which is hopefully a single player game reportedly by Jason Schreier, who's a big reporter at Bloomberg. But that game is just pitched, and if Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League has taught us anything, Rocksteady takes a really long time to make video games. So we might not see what that game looks like for a really long time. And it just sucks because this game was set in the Arkhamverse, was a follow-up to Arkham Knight, which at the time when it released, was released to sort of mixed. It kind of had a reaction like you would have to like the ending of Lost. But like Lost, Time has done really well on that game, and if you play it now, it's amazing, and in a lot of ways it's a masterpiece because the way it looks, it plays. There were some story issues, but as a game, Arkham Knight is amazing. You can still pop it in now. I just did recently to beat the Penguin's ass after he killed Vic in the Penguin. Sorry for spoiling that show, but I just had to get that off my chest. But yeah, it just shows like, again, the boom and bust. Like this game, just came out earlier this year and now they're pulling support for it. And it costs hundreds of millions of dollars. And the wrong lessons will probably be learned from its launch. I think the problem with AAA game development now is that these things happen and it just seems that the developers, the publishers, the parent companies don't really learn. The reason they don't learn is something like Marvel Rivals. Hey, when people are playing, 10 million people are playing a game at launch, that's insane. Even though it's a free to play, people are engaging with the game. They're buying cosmetics, season passes. And now Marvel Rivals is at a place where they're really sort of they're really consumer friendly and all that. But there will come a time where the cosmetics will cost more. There's more season passes. We just never know where these games go in terms of their how they monetize. And we've seen things like, for example, Marvel Snap, which was a game I played a lot at the beginning, was great, but now I open it, I'm like, is this a casino? Like, where are all these things, different things I can buy? So that's just sort of a sad state of where the AAA game space is. And it's sad that Rocksteady, obviously changed the game for superhero video games and now are in a place where they are the laughing stock. We are so far removed from Arkham Knight, which the creators of Rocksteady, the founders, don't even work there anymore. So it gets you thinking like, hey, is the skill set, is the culture there to create something like that Arkham series? Can they do it? Like right now they're working on a director's cut of Hogwarts Legacy, which was the biggest game of the year a couple years ago. And even though it was a single player game, Warner Brothers Discovery has said, hey, we're going to focus on live service games because that is what makes us money, despite the fact that every time they've tried it, whether it be Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League, multiverses, it has resulted in a over $300 million loss. And in the case of a single slash multiplayer game like Mortal Kombat 1, they have also pulled support where they're no longer creating any more combat packs. And in terms of where it's received in the community, people have seen Mortal Kombat 1 as a failure. So every time they've tried to overly monetize their games, it's clear that the response from consumers and gamers is no. And yet that is what they want to focus on versus single player experiences that really immerse people in a game where people can escape. They buy the game and that's it. And it just seems that the AAA game space is not really interested in making those kind of games anymore. And I get it to a certain extent. These games are super expensive. They have huge teams on them. They take a really long time to make. So you really have to have a return on that investment. But we do have to get to a place where this is just crazy. Like Concord was out for like 2 weeks before it was pulled. Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League was $100 in February. $100. And in a month, you probably won't be able to play it online, which is insane by any metric. And now that they've released Deathstroke, who is easily one of the most popular villains in all of the DC pantheon, they decided to release him. Not just release him. That's what they did. They published a photo. They didn't even give him a cool trailer. No cut to like, I don't even know how he plays, which is crazy because we got trailers for like the Joker. We got some little like deep dives on other characters. So it's crazy. As much as I knew this was coming, and this is not a shock, nothing is a shock after Concord was pulled completely. But still, it is crazy that a game from the studio that brought us the Arkham trilogy would be folding up their tents less than a year after launching. And even with sort of like how skeptical, people got after the initial gameplay reveal and the delays and everything, I thought they'd be able to turn it around because they're Rocksteady. And now this game has left such a bad taste in my mouth. I don't think they'll ever be able to turn it around. I think it's going to get to the point where, because of all the failures that WB Games has had, they'll probably have to get to a point where they have to license these IPs out to be able to really get to a good place where Marvel is. They were saddled with one developer, and once sort of Disney decided, hey, we're not doing Disney games anymore, we're not going to be a publisher, and they started licensing out games. That's how we got Insomniac Spider-Man, that's how we got Marvel Rivals, that's how we got Guardians of the Galaxy. It's also where we got Marvel's Avengers, but we won't talk about that too much. But yeah, it just sucks to see. But again, not a surprise when you're talking about Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. I think we're all kind of waiting for this announcement, and now that it's here, it's kind of like, damn, that's crazy. But yeah, what do you think? Are you excited about sort of the early death of Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League? Do you think WB is going to learn the right lessons from this failure? I don't. Let me know. Like, comment, subscribe, and peace.